How did you get to New York City?
I got here in 2010.
Okay.
Officially moved here. I've been coming here my whole life because I went to summer camp. Jew. Up top. I just need everyone to know. And all my camp friends lived here.
Okay.
So I would always come up here. My mom's from Jersey. So she's like obsessed with New York. So we would just come here all the time. And I just never thought of another future for me. I was like, after college, I will move here. All my friends I went to school in DC. So like all my friends, like DC friends, college friends are from New York, tri-state area. So it was like a no-brainer. And then I graduated college, didn't unpack, moved straight here. My sister had just broken up with her boyfriend in Chicago and moved here, got an apartment, and I moved in with her. And I didn't have a job. I held weird ass jobs. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was like a business major, psych minor, very classic. No idea what I wanted to do though.
What did you do?
Well, before I got a full-time job, you want to hear my weird gigs?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. I was a vodka girl at a club that no longer exists, which is then called Cellar. The Cellar. It was like in Bryant Park. I was a bartender in college. My friend and I got our bartender's degree.
Nice.
Which, like, you shouldn't do. Like, if you ever interview for a bartending gig and you say that you have a license, they'll laugh you out. Like, you won't get the job. But I bartended in college, and I was like, all right, I like can handle a drink. And so this company called Pink Vodka was a caffeinated beverage because like Red Bull vodka was like the hot drink in 2010. And they had me go to this place in Bryant Park to do like past free shots. It wasn't one of those like sexy shot girl things. It was like I'm doing marketing for this vodka company. And the clientele there was like these older men who were coming off of their jobs, and I would offer them this drink and do the whole marketing spiel. And I was like, it's caffeinated. And the second I said it's caffeinated, they were like, no. They're like, why would we want that? This is literally what one man said to me. He was like, why would I want that? We're all drinking so we could go home and not fuck our wives. Like, we're trying to pass out. Like, we're not trying to wake up. And I was like, okay, the clientele is like kids who do cocaine. Like, this is not the clientele. So that was one job. Another job I had was working at the fancy food show at the Javits Center. I worked for this Belgian chocolate company that I don't know how. It was like my boyfriend at the time's sister hooked me up with this random gig.
Nice.
And I had to work the booth at the Javits Center, another selling job, where I dipped this Belgian chocolate, it was like a lollipop basically, into hot milk, and it created hot chocolate. It was honestly delicious. That was another one. Oh, God, I would work at liquor stores for that vodka. I don't know. And then my camp friend came to visit me, and the next day we were getting lunch, and she was like, oh, my friend just got this job at a digital marketer agency, media buying company. I didn't know what that meant. They're trying to hire out of college kids. And so I got the interview and I got the job. And I did digital media buying. Like, are you familiar with that space?
Not really.
Okay. So it was like programmatic media buying would just become like this technology where what's called an ad, I don't have to get into the details of this, but like an ad network can do mass amount of buying on like a bidding system for the ads that populate on your, like when you're as a consumer on the web. The highest bid gets the space kind of thing. I didn't totally understand it at the time, and I obviously don't still. But I was there for 3 years, and the guy who hired me, shout out to Paul. He is still like my mentor in life. I consult him on everything. He's like a really good friend. And I was there for 3 years in advertising, basically media buying.
Were you always a comedy fan?
Obsessed. I never knew it was an option, like as a career. I was always like, up until recently, I think COVID did this for a lot of people too. I just like, I thought I was like, all right, my job is linear, meaning like you have a linear career path. I'll get married. I'll probably have some kids. I'll like eventually move to the suburbs. It's like everyone around me was just doing that. For some reason, I was like reluctant to like totally give into that.
Yeah.
I always in my career chose, after the digital marketing job, after that, I went to Thrillist. And are you familiar with Thrillist?
Remind me.
It was at the time in 2014. It was like a website for guys about like where to eat, where to drink, where to shop. Like, it was like I was like total pick me girl in my 20s, but like, I was like, this is the sickest place ever. Like, it's a website that's like for cool guys. And like, how cool would that be to say that I work at Thrillist? Which honestly, it was a cool job to have. I loved it. It was 25. There's a keg in the office. Remember the Fat Jewish?
No.
The guy, he was like the originator of like memes.
Okay.
He was a hilarious comic. He was an editor there. He was like sit next to me, bringing like a whole suitcase full of chicken nuggets one morning. Like he was just a ridiculous person. Those were my colleagues. I will say that I bring it up just because ever since that marketing job, I then got very particular in my jobs of like only places that like were aligned with my values, my mission, what I cared about, what I thought was really fun. When I say because I deeply aligned my identity with my job.
Yeah.
So when someone asked me what I did for a living, I wanted to be really excited to tell them.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why I chose to do comedy. I mean, I could skip to there. It was like years later that I started, but I remember I worked with this life coach who I still keep in touch with. He was incredible, like an executive coach. And I was feeling very lost. This was like 6 years ago. And he's like, what do you want to say when someone asks what you do for a living? And instantly I was like, comedy writer. He's like, okay, what could you do in 24 hours where I can ask you what you do for a living and you genuinely can say that, which is like a really intense exercise.
Yeah.
And he goes, tomorrow I'm going to meet with you in 24 hours and I want you to tell me or show me some piece of evidence empirically that you are now a comedy writer. And like, what do you do? Right. So I thought about it, and I had a friend at the time, this is 2018, who was starting to do stand-up, and I texted her and I was like, do you want help writing your shit? And she's like, yeah. So she set a meeting on my calendar to meet with her, to help her. And I sent my coach that meeting invite. And that's where it all started.
Where did the desire for comedy writing come from? Had that always been there, or you kind of discovered that through these exercises with this coach?
I've always been a fan. I was always thought of as like funny. Like I loved when people said I was funny. I wanted to be thought of as funny more than like, I feel like a lot of girls, I mean, in my 20s, I definitely cared about what I looked like.
Yeah.
But if someone told me they thought I was funny, I was like, that's amazing. Like my Instagram presence at the time was just jokes. It wasn't like stand-up jokes, but it was like commentary about the news or like a comment about something I saw on the street. It was like always designed to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And I just loved nothing more than when people would like respond to it being like, oh my God, that's hilarious. I was thinking a lot about where it's like, how young was I when it started? The first chapter book that I ever read, which like, I didn't really read it. I read like half of it, but I like said I read it. Was called Dogs Don't Tell Jokes. I've never forgotten that. Because this is so embarrassing. But you know, when people ask you like, oh, what's your favorite book? Like on a date or something. I mean, I wasn't dating when I was 7, but like it was around when you get into middle school and high school, you're asked these intellectual questions of like, what's your favorite book? I'd be like, well, that's the only book I've ever read. That's the only book I've ever finished because I wasn't a big reader growing up. So that's always stuck with me as like Dogs Don't Tell Jokes. It's a real book. Like I should buy it. It's just like a keepsake. I just love joke. I have like knock knock joke books in my childhood bedroom. Like I was obsessed with jokes, just laughing. I just love laughing. I just think it's the best thing ever. I mean, you appreciate that.
I do.
It's just like, there's nothing better than laughing. And then I was like, oh, this is like a medium where you can just go and laugh. I never thought I could do it. I never thought that was an option.
Were there comedy writers or comedy shows that you remember really admiring when you were growing up before you got into comedy? Were there figures and shows and individuals that come to mind?
I always love asking people like, what was like the movie that was always on when you were a kid? For me, it was Tommy Boy. Yeah. So like Chris Farley was like a member of my family. Yeah. Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura, that whole era, 94, I think it was, when all those amazing films came out. Like that was peak. I was born in 87, so I was 7 at the time, which probably was a little young for those. Yeah. But my theme to my bat mitzvah was movies. And my mom and I went to all these theaters in Baltimore and went to their basement. My got bat mitzvahed in 2000. So like they still had those posters from like 6 years prior in the basement. And we got those authentic Tommy Boy, Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, like Jim Carrey. Oh my God. I was obsessed with all of them. And we had those. I wish we still had those posters. We don't have them anymore, but I made it the theme to my bat mitzvah. I was obsessed with them. It was all those amazing films.
So when your friend agrees to let you help her, when you look back on your career, is that a transition point for you? Do you view that as like the first step towards moving into comedy more fully?
It wasn't like a milestone. I guess that wouldn't be a milestone, but it definitely was flexing a muscle I had never flexed before. Like writing. I was really bad too. Like she had all these great premises that I was like, oh, I can write this. And I rewrote all of her stuff instead of giving her notes. Like, and now I look back and I'm like, if I were her, I would have been like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, why are you rewriting everything? And what I was writing for her was like prose. It wasn't stand up. It was like humor writing. It wasn't meant to be said out loud. But that was my first exposure to it. And then after that, I took a writing class, 2 writing classes. It was like humor writing classes. I never like wrote before. I mean, I wrote, but like I never like did it seriously, intentionally rather.
Yeah.
Before then. So yeah, maybe it was. I definitely attribute that as like my first exposure to flexing that muscle. And then it got me into writing classes. And at the time, I was like 29, I think. I was working at Twitter. I was like kind of bored in the job and I wanted to do something interesting and cool. So I took a writing class and that was all I thought of it. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to become a writer. It was like, oh, this would be like a cool thing to say I did on a date. I did it. And it was the best day. It was an intensive humor writing class. It was like a 1-day intensive, Gotham City writers. Can't recommend it enough. It was like a no frills type of thing. We're in this like studio in 36th Street kind of thing. And it was the best day. It was so fun. And then after that, I wanted to do another one. But level 2, it was a level 1 class. Level 2 was already booked. This is literally what made me do stand-up. The only open class was a stand-up writing class that aligned with my schedule. And in the description, it says in order to graduate, you have to get on stage. It was a 6-week course, Gotham City Writers, not connected to Gotham Comedy Club. Yeah. Totally different. And you had to get up on stage at the end and do your set. And that scared the fuck out of me. And I had gone on like a surfing yoga retreat prior where one of the mantras was like, do things that scare you. Like listen to your fear. So I was like, I got to do it. So I did it. And then that was the first time I got up on stage from that class.
I don't know if you remember that experience well, but how is that a 5-minute set? How long are you going up there?
8-minute sets. Usually like a opening, like a class like that, or like your new talent show is like a 5-minute, 6-minute set. Yeah. This was 8. And at the time I didn't know that was more than normal. I was like, okay, 8. I remember I couldn't perform. For some reason, I wasn't part of the graduation show, but I went to it as an audience member. I don't know why, but my date was a different date. But I went to the first, like my class's graduation show to support them. And the teacher there sees me in the audience and he's like, someone didn't show up. Do you want to go on stage tonight? And I was like, no, my set's not done. I don't even have it memorized. And he's like, you don't say no to something like this. And I didn't know anything. So I was like, okay. And I literally like had shit in my pants. Like, sorry, maybe don't say that. But I was freaking out and I like get up there. I didn't know anything about looking for the light. You know, when they time you and tell you have a minute left, like I didn't know where to look for that. I didn't know how to pace. I had nothing memorized. I kind of just had premises rolling around in my head and I did it. And I got off of stage that night and it was horrendous. And I got yelled at for going over because I didn't see the light. It was really bad. I never, ever want to see that tape. I've never watched it. I don't even know if it exists. But afterwards, my 2 girlfriends and I, who were there with me, we all went to dinner afterwards. And I was just buzzing. Like they've never seen me like that. I want to hear a really weird story.
Sure.
We were at the Smith, which is like this restaurant in Nomad. And the walls in the summer are like they're open. Like the restaurant like is all open. And we were seated by the side, like the opening, the windows. And this person walks by, this man, these three guys walk by. And I'm just like on another level. Like, I can't believe I just did that. I feel incredible. I'm like God's gift. And this man walks through the wall that was open into the restaurant, weaves over to our table and was like, I just saw you I had to say hi to you. The energy you're giving off right now is insane. Like, who are you? Tell me your story. This man ended up being a little cuckoo, but like, he was like a Wall Street guy. He was British, loved me a Brit. I was just like, he was like, can I get your number? I was like, I always think about that because that's what it feels like when you're doing an alignment with what you should be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to put on like a costume to go to work. Like when you're just doing it.
Yeah.
Granted, I wasn't doing it very well, but like, that feeling was electric. It was amazing. And that was a bad show. So I couldn't imagine what would be a good show.
Is that the first of what became an ongoing, consistent stand-up routine for you?
No. I mean, that was the first. And then I did my actual show, my actual graduation show, which again, probably didn't go very well. I don't remember that one as well.
Okay.
I do have the tape of that though. So I think I remember it probably through the tape. I do remember some of my material, which I should bring back, I think, because they're good premises. I did it. I thought the idea of doing it more than once was crazy. I was like, no, I did the thing that I was terrified of doing. I'm not going to climb Mount Everest again. Like I did the thing. I graduated. And then the teacher emailed and was like, well, everyone gets this email, but you think it's just you being asked to go on stage again.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, we have these dates open if you want to go up again. And I was like, well, I'm being asked. I have to do it. Like, meaning I'm scared to do it again. That means I have to do it.
Yeah.
So I did it again like 6 months later. And I wrote a brand new 8 minutes. I don't know how and then I think I did it twice. That was 2018. And then I did it twice. 2019, I did it 2 more times, 6 months apart. I never did it back consistently. And then COVID happened and I never thought about it again. I mean, I thought about it, but I never did it again.
Post-COVID, did you at some point make it an intentional move for you to get back into this and really commit to it? How did that happen?
It was 2022. I think my experience through COVID as it pertains to comedy, I felt very unfunny during COVID.
Yeah.
I felt very out of body, very out of sorts. I didn't know who I was. Like my identity was like very not grounded. I was just like, I didn't know what my voice was. I didn't know what I cared about. I was just trying to survive, basically. Because I was here in New York for most of it. I was home in Baltimore for a bit, but I just felt very lost during that time. And then 2022, the world started getting more normal. I broke up with the guy I had been dating all throughout COVID, and I felt like I got my voice again. No, that was not hate to him, but like I just felt like me again. And then I reached back out to that coach who I had done only one session with, and we like serendipitously met 5 years prior and then never spoke to him again after that. But I emailed him and I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but like we met 5 years ago. You got me to do this comedy writing thing with my friend. And now like I would love to talk with you again. I'm having that itch to like get back into it. And he immediately set a calendar invite.
Cool.
And I met with him. I attribute so much of me actually doing it again to him.
What's his name?
Bob Russo.
Okay.
Shout out to Bob. He's incredible. He is just like a spiritual guide. He identifies himself as like a mystic. He just like gets the best. He just holds you accountable and pulls the best out of people. And he's an executive coach too, but he's not like, here's what to put on your LinkedIn. It's like, let's get to the core of the matter, what you want to do, who you are as a person, what lights you up. I could talk about our sessions forever. Oh my God. But I took another writing class, which is what ultimately got me back into it. And that's when I met Nancy. Not in that class, but at one of those graduation shows after that class at Gotham Comedy Club.
Who is Nancy and why does that matter?
Nancy, she's my closest friend in comedy. She's my co-producer. We write together. She's the best person. And I met her in 2023 at Gotham at a show. And I just thought she was hilarious. And I was like, I need to write with this person. She seems great. And then we started writing together. We met up a few times. And then we became like real life friends. And now we have a show together. And it's so fun.
Your career prior to that, where you're doing digital advertising work, did you ditch that altogether? What's the story of how you made it work financially to live here?
So let me back up. The last full-time employment that I had was I got laid off in 2022. So that's another impetus that got me to do it. Yeah. So I was working at the film studio at the time doing business development, working with brands. So it wasn't so far from advertising, but it was working in the entertainment space. We all got laid off. I really loved that job. So I wanted to replicate it through freelance gigs. So I found other studios to work with. I found an incredible documentary studio that I discovered through watching a documentary and then Googled who made it. And then I was like, can I work with you? Yeah. So they hired me for like 6 months. That was awesome. So that's like kind of, I freelanced a bit when I was starting to write again. Yeah. And then before that, I'm like not going in chronological order. Before that gig, I worked at Twitter for a while and I still had my shares. Nice. When Elon bought it.
Oh, let's go.
So it wasn't life-changing money, but it definitely held me over. But no, I was not doing comedy for the money. No one is because you're losing money doing comedy. But now that I'm like in the groove of doing a lot of consistent shows, I have my weekly open mic. I'm like, now I have I feel like I'm on the tracks. If like it was a train or down, I have like a river. I have like momentum in comedy stuff. I'm trying to like get back into the business development world of like, okay, I'm not going to make a ton of money doing comedy. I do know how to make money through sales. And I have a ton of network contacts from 15 years in working in different industries. So now I'm working with a lot of venues. And I'm also I've started to work with filmmakers to find funding for their films, which I love that work. If it's a good movie and I care about it and it made me feel something and they want to make, for instance, I watched a short film that my friend was in and I loved it. And I knew they were making it into a feature because it won all these awards at all these festivals. They didn't have the money for it. Or they had the money for like the first half of production, but they needed more. And I was like, I will find you that money. So I worked out deals with these venues and filmmakers. See how lucrative that can be. But I don't want to stray too far back into the corporate world. I want to stay in this art entertainment space. Yeah. It is just, and maybe it's my age and I've had a 12-year career having a boss. I don't want that anymore. Yeah. I don't like having a boss.
I'd love to talk about those sessions with the coach you were talking about where, you correct me if I'm wrong about this, but it sounds like there probably was some clarity for you coming out of that as to what you wanted to do and wanted to be. I'd love to talk about that process of kind of how you honed what you decided you wanted to spend your time doing.
So a million things stick with me through those sessions. We'd meet like every 2 weeks for like an hour or so. He gave a lot of frameworks for how to approach certain things of trying to boil down what it is you want to do. One of them really stuck, which was it was a quadrant. So maybe you've heard this. So it's like your zones of incompetency, competency, your zone of excellence, and then your zone of genius. And it was doing the exercise with yourself of what those are for you. So like, we should do it. We should do the exercise and I want to know what yours are. So like, I'll just do mine first and they change all the time. And there can be a million things in each zone, but your zone of incompetency, and this is how I interpreted the exercise, at least, was like things that like you're going to hire out for. And it's also things that you probably were shamed for not being good. Like you shamed yourself for not being good at growing up or in adulthood too. Like it's just things your brain isn't wired that way. Like this is a really innocuous one that I've recently discovered that I have. Everyone's obsessed with or was obsessed with Wordle. I'm obsessed with the New York Times crossword puzzle. I love word games. I love trivia. I love that type of thing. So I was like, oh, this will be something I'll like too. I'm not wired that way.
Yeah.
When I try to do a Wordle, I hate it. Like I would be like, why can't I be good at this the way everyone else is? And they love it so much. They get so much out of it. And then I was like, oh, this is just in my zone of incompetencies. Like, that's fine. And it's just a way of framing it in your head of like, I'm accepting this. I'm not fighting it. I'm not going to shame myself. If this is truly something I want to get better at, sure, I'll try. But like, it's okay. I have no shame about it. And I move on. And it's a way of like getting to know yourself a little.
Yeah. It's just who you are.
It's who you are. I'm just not wired that way. I am not wired to build IKEA furniture. Like, I'm going to hire someone to do it. I will try to do it and I'll fuck it up. But like all the chairs in my apartment, the screws always loose. Like they're unsafe. But I just like once now, I think in my 20s and early 30s too, when I wasn't good at something, because I was an athlete growing up, like I needed to be really good at everything. And now this whole framework has been like, oh, there's certain things I'm just bad at and that's fine. I love, it's so freeing. Okay. So that's your zone of incompetency. Do you have one? You're like, no, I'm perfect.
IKEA furniture would be up there for sure.
Okay. I feel like some people's brains are wired that way and others like, no, we hire out for that.
Yeah.
Hire a TaskRabbit. I could be the world's worst TaskRabbit. It's another good framework. What would you be hired to do as a TaskRabbit? Okay. So then your zone of competency is just like things you're good at. Like you're no better than most people, but you're good at them. Like I originally, when I was doing this, I think I said tennis because I played tennis in high school. I played tennis my whole life, but I'm not like better than most people. Weirdly, in the last year, I've been playing a ton of tennis and I've gotten a lot better. So I don't think I would say that anymore. But tennis, what else? I'm good at maybe yoga. For some reason, I'm going in fitness direction. Just like things you're good at. Like you're not like, oh, this is a hobby of mine. This is just like, yeah, I could do that. I'm capable. What would be yours?
Boy, I don't know. The final two were genius and what was the
excellence?
Excellence. Okay. The goal is basically to circle on to get to the genius.
Yeah, but it's just a way of classifying. It's like learning who you are through this exercise.
Okay.
And then I'll get to the genius one.
Okay.
But first, then excellency is where most people function in their careers. So it's like you're better than most people at this thing and you do it because you're really fucking good at it. Like I would say I'm really good at business development and sales and being creative and strategy for media and content. Like I'm pretty good at that. Like I succeeded in it. I excelled at it. I had a career in it. But it didn't like fill me up.
Yeah.
Certain times when I'd be in a really good meeting, there's elements of it that filled me up. Like the relationship building filled me up. I loved being creative, making materials and like, meaning like marketing materials or a slogan of sorts. Like, I don't know. I loved elements of it and that's when you get into your zone of genius, which is like, it truly is, you're in flow state. It's like a DJ, you're in the flow.
Yeah.
As a stand-up, you're in the pocket. Like you have the audience in your palm of your hand kind of thing. And it was identifying what's in my zone of genius and how that feels. It's all about like a feeling. And I think I identified doing stand-up. I never felt like that before. It's a feeling. It's a visceral feeling. Just as you were describing, like laughing is like this like feeling you have, you know? Doing it, I don't know. It's sick. Meaning like it's addicting.
Has that feeling you had when you were describing the first time you ever did it, has that stayed with you as you've continued to do this? Do you still get that high when you're doing it and when you're done?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
And better now because, I mean, I think the first year, I mean, I'm only 3 years in, so I'm still new, but the first year and a half, 3 years, I mean, probably 10 years, I'm sure. It definitely is a roller coaster. Sometimes you feel like God's gift to comedy and you're walking off the stage and you're like, where's my special? Like I'm so good at this. It's crazy. Other times you're like, I'm going to crawl in a hole and die. Like I would come home from open mics and be like, I need to quit. Why am I doing this? Like, and that's every comic. It's like everyone has those good shows and bad shows. And then the more you go to these mics and you see other people bomb, it becomes easier and more acceptable. And like, I remember I was at an open mic and I saw this pro comic. I didn't know who he was. This was a few years ago. He's bigger now. Should I just name him?
Sure.
Okay, Jamie Wolf. He was at an open mic.
I've seen him. He's great.
I didn't know. This was like 3 years ago. I didn't know who he was. I'd never seen him before. He just like was like, I mean, there's so many straight white men doing comedy. They all look the same. I wasn't thinking twice when he took the mic, and he was at it was an open mic for amateurs. It wasn't like, I mean, I don't know if there's an open mic for pros, but he didn't get one laugh. The audience, and there was audience too there, hated him. I mean, I don't know if they hated him, but like he didn't get a single laugh. It was a true bomb in my brain. And I was like, who is that? And then I like looked him up afterwards. Or no, then I went to the Cellar or somewhere where he's obviously a regular.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's the fucking guy. And he's hilarious. And he's one of my favorite comics now. And I always think about that because like, that just happens. It's not personal. That was another thing Bob taught me. And that I think is truly the best piece of advice that you get when you're a kid. And you don't think it's the best piece of advice anyone says to you because you take it personally, is don't take it personally. You know, when you're like sad as a kid and someone's like, oh, don't take it personally. Yeah. You're like, fuck off. Like, I'm taking it personally. I'm standing in my right to be upset. I think that's getting older is really, really trying hard not to take things personally because it's rarely personal. And in comedy, it's so hard not to take it personally when you feel like a room of people, strangers hates you, but like, it's not personal. It's truly not.
What's an average week look like for you? I know you have the Tuesday night event that we've talked about, but what else do you do? What are your, what related to comedy specifically, what's a week look like?
It changes. Recent weeks. So I started working with Flophouse, which is where I run the open mic and my show. And they are running a comedy festival in July. And I pitched them my business development services of let's get sponsors on board this festival. So my week, I'm meeting with them. I could just tell you what this week, I'll tell you what this week looks like because every week is truly so different. So during the days this week, I'm going to the club, meeting with one of the owners of the club's fiance is helping me with the partnerships. So I meet with her. I have some calls with potential sponsors. I'm emailing, doing outreach, kind of casting a wide net from my network. I got some interest, so I'm dealing with that back and forth on email of getting a lot of brands right now don't have the money because of tariffs, and they're like, our marketing budget is non-existent for sponsoring something like this. So they're sending us a lot of samples, like free samples, which is great. So I'm dealing with that. I'm also working with Filmmaker to get funding. So tomorrow my calls are with an agency that I used to work with that does impact advertising. So like LG, for instance, is one of their clients. They do a lot about mental health. And that would be a perfect brand to come on board and help fund this film. And that is a brand that helps fund films, which is a hard brand to find. So I have a call with them. It's a lot of that right now. It's a lot of outreach because I'm like flexing that networking muscle again. I've also weirdly gotten contacted by a few people that I've used to work with being like, hey, because I've like updated my LinkedIn now to kind of frame what I'm doing. I built myself a website that tells people what I'm doing. They're like, I saw what you're doing with comedy, your career transition. I want a career transition into this thing. Can I talk with you? That pick your brain types of coffee dates. It's a lot of those right now, which is great. I love that because now I feel like I've established something like an identity, which I've been searching. I'm still searching for it, but like, I feel like I've moved this huge boulder away from this corporate career I've had into this new form of identity. Professionally, which is really cool.
I don't know how much you think about this, but a year or two from now, what would an ideal week look like then? Are you hoping to get more on a beach? What would that look like? In terms of like performing. So when I first started doing comedy, I haven't even touched on this. I really love late night
comedy writing. Monologue jokes is like, I love it. I love the quickness of it. I've never done improv. I've taken classes, not improv classes. I've taken sketch writing classes, but that's not my background. Like I think it would be a great thing for me to do. But I just love monologue jokes of late night TV, like Weekend Update I love SNL generally.
Yeah.
Huge SNL person. Weekend Update is like, that's really why I watch it. So I really started doing this with that goal in mind of late night TV. I learned how to write a packet. I took a course in that, which was, I cannot recommend it enough. This class with this guy named John Reynolds, who is a head writer at Craig Ferguson, who's at the American President Show, a few other late night TV shows. He taught this class for 6 weeks. That was the best class I've ever taken.
Whoa.
It made me feel the way that I'm describing, like that zone of genius feeling where I'm like, oh, I'm in my element. I can walk into this room. Whereas like in corporate sales, I felt like I was putting on a suit, which I literally was, and pretending to like care about this thing and selling it to a room full of people on their laptops. Yeah. Whereas walking into a room like that, I was like, oh my God, I'm like walking in as me. And it's that feeling I think I'm seeking. In like in 2 years, to answer your question, in like a stable thing, whether that's walking into a state, like a room, like I would love to, I'm not passed at any clubs. I would love to get passed at clubs where I can walk in and feel confident that I'm like a professional. I mean, I'm getting paid to do comedy now, which was another huge milestone. Not a lot, but like that was a huge milestone for me of this year. I will get paid. I want a transaction where someone's literally giving me money to do this thing. Yeah. That happened for me for the first time, I think a year and a half ago. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever because I thought it was a hobby at first. And now I'm like, oh, literally someone's giving me $20, $10, let's be real, to like do this thing that I like, I'm taking this like leap to pretend that I know how to do. I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
What did you learn from that class, the 6-week class that you were raving about?
The science of like writing. I mean, by the end of the class, you came out with what's called a packet, which is a packet of, you know how to write for late night, meaning you know how the science and structure of a monologue joke, you know how to pull from headlines. And when you see a news headline, are you familiar with monologue? I can describe it. So like a monologue is like when Jimmy Fallon or Colbert is up top at the beginning of the show doing his little standing monologue before he goes to the desk. And it's mainly headline jokes about the news of the day. Jay Leno famously did like the top 10, whatever. Or I guess that was more of a desk bit than a monologue. But it's basically taking a headline and knowing how to look at a headline, pull out certain topics, word topics from that headline and form it into a joke. And knowing how to see that headline and then think of, okay, what are associations with those key topics in that headline? So like, I'm trying to think of I have on my Instagram, some of mine that I wrote from that class. They're so silly. I could pull one up if you want. But it was like, now when you read the news, you're like, okay, what's funny about this? What could be funny? What is this associated with from maybe a different news story or a pop culture event or something personal? Or then you also learn of like, okay, you see a news headline, maybe it seems like a little innocuous, it's unfunny, but like, how do you make it funny? Maybe it's making someone unexpected talk about that topic. So you think of like celebrities and the zeitgeist, and it's understanding, how did they write that monologue at the top of the show? How did they come up with all that material based off of like these boring news headlines or these disturbing news headlines and make it funny? I think now, particularly, the one way to consume this news that is so awful every day is to make it funny. Yeah. You never listen to like Love It or Leave It?
I've heard
of
it.
It's like the Pod Save guys, John Lovett.
Yes.
Not John Lovitz and not John Lovett, the actor. It's basically a run. He does like a great monologue up top. It's a podcast, but he does live shows where he just takes the news and he just makes it so funny and hard hitting and digestible. And you're learning as you're listening to him. It's not just silly jokes, but it just makes it like, okay, it's going to be okay. We're able to still laugh at the absurdity of what's going on in this world. Yeah. I loved that part.
You mentioned Jamie Wolf earlier. I'd be curious to know who. I love to ask stand-ups and comedians in this city this question, but who have you seen or who do you know about that is extremely talented, that makes you crack up who most people have never heard of before?
Well, maybe the comic I was saying earlier before we started, Liz Glazer.
Yeah.
I think she's going to be a household name. I know she's about to be way more famous after this week. I can't say why. But she's going to have a lot of exposure, I think, the next few days and few weeks. So she maybe, I don't know when this comes out, but like, I'm sure a lot of people will know about her after that. But like I think she's like 20,000 on Instagram, maybe. I could listen to her speak for hours. Her delivery, the way she speaks, the conviction, it's like she emulates the two things that you have to do as a stand-up, which is have something to say and really want to say it. Those are the two things you need to be really good at comedy. She's so good at that. Like the topics she talks about they range. She talks about the Middle East. She's married to a rabbi. So she talks about her wife. She has this amazing joke. She's lesbian. She's like, my wife, she's a rabbi. My wife, I think, is also gay. Like, it's like, she just like the way like her writing style, the way she just like, you're listening to her and she speaks pretty quick. I don't know if she speaks quickly, but like she interjects punchlines throughout every sentence. There's never more than 2 seconds without a laugh. And it's genius. And it's just like so well structured and so well written. And even more than that, the way she delivers it is so good. So that's why we booked her as the headliner.
Nice.
Of my next show. Cause this is embarrassing and I don't know if I'm going to do it. But I went when I opened for her at a temple in Jersey and she was selling her merch. She accidentally ordered like thousands of her t-shirt, which is just her face on a shirt instead of the hundreds she meant to do. Okay. So now she was selling them at the merch table and like all proceeds or some proceeds go to Yad Vashem, like the Holocaust Museum. And I bought one. I was like, it's for a good cause. I was like, I don't know if I'm her opener. Is it weird if I'm wearing her merch? Like, but now I'm thinking I have this shirt and I love it. It's like a great merch. I'm like, I'm going to wear it in the show where she's headlining. Is that weird? Like, I just love her so much. I think she's so funny. Yeah, she's definitely one. So many people in my level who I'm like, they're going to make it. I'm like, they're like built to do this. Sarah Barnett, I think she's hilarious. She's very funny. She's someone who also like does the two things. She has a lot to say and you believe her when she's saying it. A girl who I guess those are the two things that I think of when it really makes me laugh. Mia Wilson. These are girls my level or a little my level or above. Have been doing it a few years more than me. But yeah, that's how I would gauge it. And it's so funny having a conversation about my favorite comics because if I were to ask a man their favorite comics, not one woman would be mentioned. Is that what you're thinking? I'm only naming women.
I'm very open to that. I think that's
women can do comedy, right? We can be funny.
So I think you said you've been doing this basically for 3 years. That's the amount of time roughly that you've been really committing to it. I started in 2018 and 19 4 times over 2 years. I wouldn't necessarily say that's starting, but like I got my toes wet. I think you gave that's such an interesting and pithy description of what it takes to be a good comedian, having something to say and really wanting to say it.
Oh yeah.
Is there anything else you've noticed that the people that you think are truly terrific have in addition to those two things, whether that be just natural charisma, extroversion, intelligence, anything? I
actually wouldn't say extroversion and charisma are elements you need to be a good comic. I think it would have been Liz who said this on a podcast I was listening to, who was like, and I personally loved this, and this is why it struck me so much and it stuck with me. I have so many funny friends who are very extroverted and charismatic and the funniest, loudest person in the room. And when I first started doing comedy, I would be so insecure because like, I'm not that loud. I'm kind of the observer. Like I'm like quiet in a lot of rooms, not unless depending on the room. But I remember I was in an Airbnb share house for a friend's wedding. And I was in the share house with 2 very close friends. And then there was a new person in the house we didn't know her. She and her boyfriend were also in the house going to the wedding. And we all hit it off. We all had a great weekend together. And one of my friends who's very loud and hilarious, not a comic, she the new girl in the house was like, God, you're so funny. Emily, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, I'm a comedian. And she's like, really? Like she was like, oh my God, I would have never guessed that. And I was so insecure about that. I was like, I'm not a comedian. You have to be really loud and funny in every scenario. You have to be the funniest person in the room, and you don't. And I think it was Liz who said this. The way she described it was comedian. I think the best comics are observers. They see society, they see the world, they see social situations, they see a headline in the news, and they think about it in a really funny way. Or they find the humor in it, and they are able to articulate it and perform and make other people laugh about that thing. And that's all it takes. Like, I think that's also why a lot of comics are like socially awkward.
Yeah.
Which I'm finding. It's so funny because I'm very good at networking, I think. It's my zone of competence. But I'm used to like people in advertising who are very extroverted and sociable versus networking and comedy is a different beast because like not everyone is that sociable and loud and friendly even because they're not unfriendly. They're not trying to be mean. They're just observers. We're all kind of observing the world. And I love that because it made me have less shame about not being the funniest, loudest person in the room at all times. It's exhausting.
I guess it's the difference between being funny at a cocktail party and being funny at a stand-up event.
Yeah.
That they're different skill sets.
Yes. I would love to be good at both. I love meeting new people. That's my favorite thing. And which is why I love sales, because you're constantly meeting new people.
Yeah.
I love dating too. Like I think that's why I have commitment issues. Because like I just love meeting new people. Like I'm like a golden retriever.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I love making new people laugh. Because I've never heard my material. No, I think it's just, I don't know. I just like getting to I think I'm both an observer. I'm not silly. I'm not like the silliest, most loudest. I mumble too. Like I need a microphone to be heard. I think I'm quiet. A lot of people think I'm like reserved too in some rooms. I would love to like, if I'm truly finding my voice, to feel really like consistently my voice unwavering in every room. And I think that's kind of like the journey of becoming a comic, right? It's finding who you are, not pretending to be someone you want to sound.
Do you still feel like your primary talent and zone of genius is in the writing itself, or is that changing as well into being more of the performer?
Great question. By the way, I've never been on a podcast. I've always wanted to have a podcast so I could be told, that's right, when I make like a really good point. So like if you think I make a good point, you're like, that's right.
Keep that in mind.
That's right. I also think it's really great when someone's like, great question. I think I started being like, I don't want to be a performer. When someone was like, what's your goal in comedy? When I first started, I was like, oh, I want to be a writer because I'm not a performer. I have no acting background. It's like, it didn't feel aligned with me.
That's right.
That's right. There it is. I feel amazing. Thank you. I've never had it happen. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I've never thought of myself as like a performer in any way. I was like, I'm just going to do this to get really good at joke writing. And then I'm going to become a writer, be on a late night TV show and just be a writer, like a really good joke writer. And comedy was just my vehicle to get there. Like stand up was my vehicle to get really good at that. I think when I started doing the open mic, which was in February, running it weekly, I'm never writing. I mean, sure, I'll like write. If I have a show that week, I'll like write new stuff to test out at the mic. But now that I've gotten so used to an open mic where it's my mic, I can say whatever the fuck I want every time I take the stage. And it's so freeing because now I'm not saying written things. I'm just saying what I want to say. And it's more performing than writing. So now if you'd asked me that last year, I would have been like, no, writing is all I care about. Now I'm like, it's really fun to perform and do crowd work and just say things that aren't pre-written. I also think that's why I'm scared to do improv because it's not written.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that I won't know what to say. And now I'm like, wait, it's so freeing when you don't have to stick to the script.
Do you have habits and kind of daily rituals where you commit to writing a certain amount? How do you, or maybe not, how do you think about discipline and habits as it pertains to your work?
Great question.
Thank you.
Doesn't it feel good? I used to be really good at morning pages, you know, like The Artist's Way. I never read The Artist's Way because I don't read books, but I do. I do know how to read. You do like, I think it's like 30 minutes of just a free write every morning.
Really?
Maybe it's not 30 minutes. Maybe that's a really long time to free write. I think it's 3 full pages maybe in The Artist's Way, or it's free write, no editing, no nothing. I would sit at my, and I don't handwrite. I write at my computer because I can close my eyes and just type. I used to be really consistent with that, and that would open up my brain every morning. And it was like before therapy, I would do it. It's really good just as therapy, not even as a writing exercise. Just like, what am I thinking about today? How am I feeling? What's top of mind? What's at the surface? It's a good grounding exercise. It's a really good way to like, if I had like yarn in my brain to like pull the yarn out.
Yeah.
I'm not as consistent with that anymore. I think I get the most writing done when I have a show that night. Like, yes, last night I had a very casual, low stakes bar show, but I'm like, I have to use this as an opportunity to test something new that's not at an open mic.
Yeah.
So I wrote a full 2-minute new thing, and I didn't even have time to do the whole thing because I ended up doing crowd stuff up top, which I never used to do, which is so fun now.
Which is probably a sign that you're getting more comfortable up there.
Oh yeah. Starting the open mic also made me feel like I wasn't pretending to be a comic. I was actually doing it. I think there's such imposter syndrome when you start doing this thing.
For sure.
Because like, it's kind of like when becoming a writer. When do you say you're a writer? When you put pen to paper? When you have something published? Or something, I don't know. When are you as a writer, someone who wants to be a writer? Yeah. Can you say that you're a writer? It's so the boundary to entry, that's not the saying. Barrier to entry. That sounded
You're
wrong.
A writer, correct?
Yes. I know how to speak. I am a writer, not a speaker. The barrier to entry is so low. Yeah. For comedy too. I mean, to make it in comedy, it's so high, but to become a comic and say that, like Bob said, in 24 hours, I could do it. When do you get to say that you're a comedian? You know, when someone asks you what you do for a living, because so many comics have full-time jobs. Yeah. Because you don't make money doing comedy in the early days, unless you really make it and get like corporate gigs. So I think for the first few years, I so badly wanted to like really own it when someone was like, what do you do? And I say, I'm a comedian. And now I feel like, okay, I'm actually doing it. Yeah. And I'm getting paid to do it consistently.
I always ask guests this question about how they think about the word success. And I would be curious to know how you think about that currently with your trajectory and what you're doing. Is your career in your mind already successful because you get to be involved in this world? Or would you not yet say that because there are certain things that you haven't achieved yet that you really want to?
I think through my work with Bob, especially, it was a lot of like kind of Buddhist, detaching from the outcome type of work where you're just doing it for the doing of it, the journey of it. I think I adopted that really hard with comedy. So I set goals that I wanted to hit. So like my first goal, I have these in an Excel doc actually. The first year I wanted to hit a milestone of getting paid to do it. Like I said, I wanted someone to hand me money to do the thing I love doing, which was really cool to get the first time. So that was success then. That was one gauge of success. I think it's always changing. I've gotten a lot of opportunities in the last few months that I never would have been on my radar as a thing of success. Like this sounds so silly. I can't say this with a serious face, but I had a few videos go viral on Instagram, not stand up, but just me telling stories, like real stories. And Newsweek contacted me to write an article about this viral video that I made. And it was like it was a video about how this person asked me if I had a family at a bachelorette party. She's like, so do you have a family? And I'm like, yeah, I have a family. I was like, why? And she's like, oh, nice. How many kids do you have? And I was like, oh, I don't have kids. And she was like, oh, so you have a partner? And I was like, no. She's like, that's what I meant. I have family. And I was like, oh, what a fun way to learn that I don't have a family. And I was like, I gotta go call my mom, my dad, my sister. I was like, rattling. It was like a video like that because it was a real thing that happened. And I thought it was so funny. And then it started this whole conversation online about family. And I'm bringing this up not to say that I went viral, but like because I was like, wow, now Newsweek is like writing this thing. I had to get interviewed by Newsweek. And then the next week they didn't find me. I found them. But like Business Insider was writing an article about like dating today. And I was like, interview me for that, for sure. So and now I'm like talking at Business Insider. I was like, wait, I'm like kind of getting these weird opportunities. I'm making these opportunities happen that I never considered before. And now I'm like, well, that could be success too. It was like online presence, which I never really considered as like a thing, which is so important now for comedy to have an online presence, because that's where you get people buying tickets to see you from discovering you online.
I would love to close with getting your advice. I know you've been at this for a few years, consistently, but I'd be curious to know what you've learned that a younger version of yourself or somebody who just did their first stand-up event and they want to commit to this and they're scared. They don't really know how. What have you learned that you might tell a friend who's interested in this career that they may want to consider, or learn from your failures, your successes that you think would be valuable?
I think, again, the same advice of don't take it personally. Failing. When I was walking on the subway, when I got on the subway to go to the West Village, my first ever open mic, I called my best friend and I was like truly freaking out because I'd done the classes, but that's like a very cushy way to get into this. Yeah. Because it's like the room is filled with your friends and family. It's a warm room. This was like my first cold open mic. And I go, I'm so scared right now. What can you give me a quick little mantra that'll just snap me out of it and be like, just do it. And she goes, yes, everyone's ugly and we all die. And I say that still. I say it to comics too, because so many comics, I mean, everyone's biggest fear is public speaking. It's like, you can't shake it. I mean, certain shows I really have no anxiety before, but other shows where there's stakes involved, I get really anxious. And it's a physical body thing. And there's I just think sorry to answer your question. Great question. Everyone's ugly and we all die, and have fun. I think so many comics, ironically, take it very seriously. You should definitely take this seriously if you want to do it for real. But they take themselves very seriously, and they get offended, or they get upset, or they get angry at the audience, or it's meant to be fun. And I think that's also what I love when I have a show that night and I get texts from people. It's not like good luck, or like Nancy and I will always say this to each other because we both love it. It's just have fun, enjoy it, like have a great time tonight. And like, I think that's what I would say also to the person just starting. Oh my God, there's so many things I would say. One piece of real logistical, tactical advice rather that I received at that stage that I never took until this year is start your own stuff. Start your own show, start your own mic. It's the one consistent way you're guaranteed to get stage time. And you need stage time to get good at this. I thought a lot of comics when they first start, and one guy said this explicitly to me and I thought he was nuts, we have to figure out a way to hack the system so we can get really good and successful without having to like pay our dues basically. And I was like, no, you have to pay your dues, not just to pay your dues, but this is like a sport. You got to like practice. You got to get good and get in shape. And the way you're going to do that is get on stage as much as possible. And I feel like I would hear that from a lot of people, but I was like, no, I can like write my way into this industry. Like I can get good because my writing's good. And it's like, no, that's not possible. You need to get on stage as much as possible. That's what I would like definitely say to the person. And how did you hack it so that you had your own show? I couldn't. And guaranteed hack it that way. Yeah. How did I start that? Oh, I knew the girl at Flophouse, the club, that was running the open mics. I'd become friends with her. She's a comic. And I texted her and I'd never hosted before. And I was like, I want to get good at hosting. Can you, and she was like putting out asks for hosting some of the open mics. And she's like, yeah, I'll add you to the group chat. And I that was another thing where I was like, I'm scared to do this because I've never done it before. And then she put me on to host one night. And obviously I got Nancy to do it with me.
Yeah.
She's my emotional support comic. But she wanted to do it too. And we had the best night of our lives. It was, again, that feeling. It was like that you're doing something new again. And then that Flophouse later that month was like, we're no longer doing random open mics. We're doing only produced open mics. So I texted her and I was like, I want Tuesdays. If Tuesdays is open, I want it. And I'm going to produce my own open mic. And that's how it happened. And then that turned into the show where we met. Yeah. Which you have to do that. I think you at least have to run a show or a mic to really get good at this.
So there's some hustle involved too, putting yourself out there.
Yeah. It took me 2 years to really hustle though. I wasn't fully committed until recent, like the last year, I'd say. Because I didn't think, I was impostery about it. I was like, I'll get good at this in my pace. And now I'm like, no, I want to get good at this now. Because again, I started when I was 32. I'm 37. Like, I think about, this is another thing, if someone wants to get into it. For time's sake of like my lifespan, I wish I started younger so I could be at a better, like a more advanced place right now.
Yeah.
But then again, when I was in my 20s and even my early 30s, I didn't have anything to say. I don't know what the fuck I would talk about. I didn't know who I was. I was so, I don't know, not consistent with my identity, I guess. I was like figuring myself out.
Yeah.
I think it's really amazing that you comics do it. I was in a show with a 14-year-old recently.
Whoa.
I know. And he was really good. And I was like, are you writing this? Like, and he was so self-aware and the writing was good. But I'm just like, I guess I have to, I started it when I was meant to start it because that's when I found or started to find a voice.
Yeah.
That I don't know. I think that's what I would say to the person starting is like, what do you want to say? And you have to be really good at saying it or really want to say it is another one.
Emily, thank you.
Thank you.